Now we are going to look at finding a common denominator when one denominator is a multiple of the other. If we look at this problem, 1/2 minus 3/8, we need to get a common denominator. Now we know that we could multiply 2 times 8 and get 16. So we could do this, 2 times 8 equals 16. And we could use that as our common denominator, but we don't want to do that. If we do that, then we're multiplying by big numbers like 16. What we would like to do is get easier numbers to work with. So if you think about it, 2 times 4 equals 8. 8 is a multiple of 2. If you did 2, 4, 6, 8, you're listing the multiples, and you can see that 8 is a multiple of 2. So why don't we use 8 as our common denominator? Let's use 8. Now I don't even have to change this one because it already has 8 as a denominator. So all I have to change is this one. I multiply 2 by 4 to get to 8. So I'm going to multiply this by the number 1. 4 divided by 4 equals 1. And now I'm going to get 4/8 minus 3/8. And my answer is now 1/8. That's a whole lot easier than doing it with 16ths and then having to reduce it at the end. Now, one thing people sometimes get mixed up on, we don't ever use canceling in addition and subtraction of fractions. You are not going to reduce any of these. You cannot cancel in this problem. You have to get a common denominator. Let's look at some other ones that we could find an easier common denominator we could use the least common multiple, the smallest number we can use as a common denominator, so we make our problems as easy as possible. If I had 1/2 plus 3/4, instead of using 2 times 4 as my common denominator, I'm going to use 4 as the common denominator. So I only have to change this one because 2 times 2 is going to give me 4. So I want to use 4, not 8. Let's try another one. How about 3/4 minus 1/12? Well, do you really want to multiply 4 times 12 to get 48? Why don't we multiply 4 times 3 and get 12ths as our common denominator? Here's another problem. 3/5 plus 13/15. Now this really shows you why you don't want to multiply 5 times 15. I can just multiply 5 times 3 and use 15 as my common denominator. And that's going to make the problem really easy. Look what happens if I try to multiply 5 times 15 and see how much work it is. First, I've got to go over on the side and multiply 15 times 5. That gives me 25. And that's 75. So I need a common denominator of 75. So this one I'm going to multiply by 5 over 5. And this one, well, I've got to find out how many times 5 goes into 75. So I'll do that over on the side. Okay, 15. Multiply this by 15 over 15. Now I'm going to get 45 over 75 plus, oops, I've got to multiply 13 times 15. 13 times 5. And that's going to give me 65 over 75. Well, now I have to add a 45 and 65, and that will be 110 over 75. Then I have to simplify that. So, and once I simplify it and make it into an improper fraction, I'm still going to have to simplify the fraction part. So I think you can see that it's much easier to do this with a different common denominator. Just use 15 as your common denominator, and you'll only be multiplying this by 3 over 3.